this mother who listens to the podcast reached out to me and asked if I could speak to her son. He has PANDAS, which is strep-mediated OCD. So he had strep a couple of years ago, woke up the next morning with severe OCD and has been trying to manage it since. And so he had to get this infusion called IVIG, which helps his immune system calm down and in theory is supposed to help with the OCD symptoms. And his mom asked if I could FaceTime with him because it's 8 hours of being hooked up to this machine. So I did. And we were chatting and we were talking about Roblox and sports and stuff that he likes to do. And then his mom said, well, actually, he has prepared a couple of questions that he wants to ask you. And I said, okay. And he said to me, if you could go back and talk to yourself as an 8 or 9 or 10-year-old, what would you say to yourself?
Oh, and what'd you tell him?
I would tell him it's not his fault, that he's not weird. His brain just works a little differently.
Guys, this is we've been talking for 3 minutes and I'm already Oh, Liam, that's such great advice.
Like, seriously, that's amazing.
I'm Alicia.
And I'm Liam. We both have OCD. And instead of spiraling alone, we decided to turn our symptoms into a podcast. You're welcome.
Here, we overshare real stories, laugh through the anxiety, and talk to actual experts who can explain why your brain keeps asking, what if I accidentally marry my cousin?
Whether your thing is hand washing, mental rituals, or just silently panicking during normal conversations, congrats. You have found your people.
This is a safe place, unless you're an intrusive thought, in which case, get in line, buddy. We're booked.
So grab a weighted blanket, cancel your plans for the 5th time, and let's dive in. This is the OCD Confessional.
And yes, we did check this recording 4 times before uploading it. All right, guys, today we're joined by Lillian Donahue. She's a TV news reporter in Phoenix, Arizona, and someone who's bravely sharing her lived experience with OCD. She was misdiagnosed with anxiety for 15 years, and Lillian's symptoms eventually led to a total shutdown in 2022, forcing her to step away from television and finally uncovering the truth that it was OCD all along. With the right treatment, ERP, ICBT, and medication, she rebuilt her health and reclaimed her life. She's here to talk about what OCD really looks like behind the stereotypes and to remind us that recovery is possible. Welcome, Lillian Donahue. All right, let's just jump right in. Lillian, you were misdiagnosed with general anxiety disorder for 15 years. Let's talk about that. A little bit of history, what that looked like for you.
Well, I'll preface my whole story by saying, let's get ready for the dark and twisty. There are some parts of my OCD story that can be a little ha-ha funny, but there's most of them that are very, very dark. And that's a lot of my themes. And there's a lot of shame with that too, but that's a part of me coming out and talking about it and being an advocate for it. But yes, misdiagnosed with generalized anxiety. I have had OCD my entire life, but it took until I was 25 to get the correct diagnosis. And that is because it really was not recognized, or people weren't looking out for the signs on the type of OCD that I have. Like, let's talk about 8-year-old Lillian, right? She was in a choir and she loved her choir in the St. Louis City Choir. She, I was obsessed, right? Well,
literally.
Obsessed. Of course, I love it. Literally, I was obsessed. No, but I caught a girl who passed out next to me. And because when you lock your knees in choir, sometimes the blood doesn't go to the brain. Exactly. So I caught the girl that passed out while performing at Powell Symphony Hall. So that then led to a multi-month panic over passing out. What is passing out? Why do you lose control of your bodily functions? What does that mean? Am I going to die? How do I stop that? All of those things that I was going through as a child, right? That culminated into I couldn't go to practice anymore. I couldn't stand and sing anymore. The next performance that I did was my last performance. I stood there and I checked my heart rate and I was singing on stage and I was doing this and I was checking this and I was pumping my legs and I was just doing this. I was just checking. I just get chills thinking about it nowadays because I wish I could hug her,
Yeah.
And she quit. Yeah. Little Lillian quit the thing that she loved the day later, not knowing it was OCD, not knowing what it was, not knowing the correct treatment, right? And so I had mental health professionals around me that were like, oh, she's just anxious. She's got a really big imagination, and then I grew up in the church, multiple different denominations, which I'm sure helps with my scrupulosity, which is faith-based OCD, that were all like, well, you just need to pray harder, or, let's just pray over her and God's going to take care of it, which there's a reason God has me in this so that I can help others, I guess. I don't know. But long story short, after 15 years of trying to figure out what is happening, going to therapy, taking medication, realizing that the therapy that I was doing was not only making it worse, but reinforcing some of the behaviors that I was doing by talking it out over and over and over again. I've got so many stories of me as a little kid, right? 4th grade. I looked out across all of my fellow students, all of my peers, and I got the intrusive thought that in 120 years, everyone in this room is going to be dead.
That's not
I'm into the deep and twisty. A 4th grader, right?
Yeah.
A 4th grader.
Yeah.
And so rather than being like, oh, that was weird, and just going to get my chocolate milk, full-blown panic attack. Full-blown panic attack. And I need to know why I got that number of 120. And is that in the Bible? And am I going to die? Oh my God, I'm going to die. I can't stop it. And then that led to me having just a convulsing on the floor. So I'm just so happy that I finally am in a place where I'm on the other side of treatment, knowing what it is, so I can attack it.
Your parents must have noticed some of this, and they take you to get treatment, and the doctors there or the therapist, whoever it is you go to see, says, all right, generalized anxiety disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And what do they do at that point?
Yeah. So I'm sure that the word OCD might have been thrown around here and there, but it was never a, hey, this is your disorder. You need to be treated for this. It was, she's anxious. She does weird things when she's anxious. So what did that look like? It looked like talk therapy that I never actually consistently wanted to do, because it was just reinforcing the same behavior. So why did you fear passing out?
Right.
Tell me more about why you feared passing out. And then I'm just going to keep going over and over and over and over again, which reinforced, again, that same issue. Without the correct treatment, it's like trying to put a Band-Aid on a dam that's already broken open. It just won't work. And so that's what my teen years looked like, was, I'll try this therapist. It's not working. Honestly, my parents would say, I'm just non-compliant. I'm just non-compliant with therapy. When in reality, it's just really not working, in general. And my home life growing up was very tumultuous. So there were a lot of other things that really, culminated in that. But that's what it looked like, was regular talk therapy, CBT, but not ICBT. We'll talk about that later. And just trying to fix the problem with things that frankly don't work for OCD. And I think that's a huge misconception about this disease, this disorder, is that you need to get the correct ERPs. You need to get the correct treatment in order to make sure that it doesn't balloon to a full body shutdown, which is what happened to me.
We're going to talk about that. I want to go back a little bit about when you were younger, trying to figure out what this was. A lot of your compulsions were mental. What were those? Can you share a little bit about what those were like for you?
Yeah. So I didn't realize this until I was 25, I play a mental game with myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, Saw. It's just a cute little dark, twisty game about death. So, I would play a game where if I'm doing something, it has to be a very specific way that I say it's going to be, or I'm going to die, or my mom's going to die, or my best friend's going to die, or my twin sister's going to die, or I'm going to die.
I love that game. That's my favorite game.
Yes.
Such a good family game.
It's such a great family game, right? So let's say I'm walking down the stairs, okay? My brain in that moment says, if you step on the bottom step of the stair, you are going to die early. So what do you think I did? I jumped.
Mm-hmm.
I jumped. I'm not on the stairs anymore. Nope. I'm going to stay alive, right? Right? Or things I can't even control, right? So I would be in the back seat with my mom, and I would look at while she's driving, and I'd look at the red light, stoplights. Stoplights. If this doesn't turn green in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm going to die early. And if it didn't, oh boy, did I go into a panic.
Did you find yourself slowing down and going 1.5,
Yeah,
1.5.
exactly. And I would be doing that up until my adult years too, just little things. If I don't kiss my husband 4 times before bed, he's gonna die in his sleep.
Do you still do that?
No, because we've ERP'd our way around that. I definitely have practiced my way. The easier things to do are the more physical compulsions. Like, hey, just step on the stair. Well, sit with that uncomfortability and feel that, ride the wave of that, and then move forward. But yeah, those are some of those mental compulsions. It's that game that I'm playing, or if I felt like somebody was mad at me, I would panic and I would ruminate for 8, 10 hours, 12 hours, a whole
The
day.
rumination is just torture.
My brain is like a record recorder. It just gets stuck on the same loop and then it goes like just over and over and over again. And that is how I would describe it growing up. That's literally how I would tell people. My brain is sticky. It
Yeah.
just it's a
Sticky.
recorder that keeps freaking going. And that actually wasn't even what led to the full diagnosis and full treatment. It took my body shutting down and me almost being hospitalized physically in order to get help.
What leads up to the moment where you finally are properly diagnosed? You say that your body essentially shut down. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so my subtypes are health OCD, existential OCD, faith OCD, death OCD is my big bad, right? So all of this is building. I'm not knowing where it's coming from. I'm struggling with depression my whole life. I struggled with, an attempt to eat myself off the planet in 2018, things that I didn't really understand why. I just couldn't handle it. And so I get married. I watched my grandfather pass in front of me, closest grandfather to me. And at this time, I didn't know I had this. And so that permanent life change of marriage mixed with seeing the act of death catapulted me into this scrupulosity. Is God real? Is people would say a faith journey, but when you add a faith journey with OCD, sometimes it gets
That's a lot.
right? Exactly. So with not being able to know what I had or the treatment, over the course of 18 months, my OCD and anxiety really built to the point that I stopped eating completely because if I ate something, I was going to choke and die, which was actually a compulsion and obsession that I had as a child. I actually ended up going to the hospital as a child because of that, because they thought something serious was wrong. But it wasn't. It was OCD, which is serious, but they didn't know.
Yeah.
And then that ballooned within the same few weeks into if I fell asleep, I was going to die in my sleep. And so it's not like I didn't get good hours of sleep. It's not like I didn't get, 4, 3, 2 hours. I didn't get a single minute. My brain wouldn't let me sleep for an entire week. Do you know what happens when you don't sleep for a whole week? You start to hallucinate.
And your OCD probably gets really bad.
It gets really bad. So I started hearing things. I started seeing things. My heart rate got stuck of over 110, resting. And then I stopped drinking water because
And how old are you at this point?
I was 25.
Were you living on your own?
No, I was with my husband.
Okay.
And he was the eventual one to say, we're going somewhere right now to get help because you are on the floor hallucinating. And so it really became mission critical. So he takes me to my doctor. And my doctor's like, you could either be put out right now in the hospital. We could put you out, or you go home right now. You take this medication we're going to give you that's going to knock you out as a reset button. And you take a full leave of absence from your job, from your life. You do an intensive outpatient program and you get this under control. So I chose option B. And it saved my life. It saved my career. It saved my marriage. And it has equipped me to hopefully help any other OCD journalist out there or just anybody who doesn't realize what's happening and might need to take a step back because it's life-saving.
So it wasn't up until your breaking point that you finally got diagnosed with OCD?
Yeah, and got the correct treatment that I needed.
The life-saving treatment that you needed. I mean, think about that. Think about all the oh gosh, it's so frustrating. It's so hard to hear that all these therapists and everybody that you saw had no idea how to treat this.
Or,
It's
I think there was
sad
one
to
there
me.
was one when I was a kid that's like, "She might be a little obsessive compulsive, but, it's just anxious. It's a part of the anxiety disorders and whatever," and never really said, "No, this is OCD. We need to do ERP.
Yes.
We need to address this ASAP." So it took so here I am living like, "Oh, I just have a panic disorder. I'm just a little anxious, just a little depressed here and there. I think about death every day." Like
I mean, yeah, thinking that if you fall asleep, that's the end of your life, and that was a real fear.
It
I
was a
mean,
fear. But I was very ready to attack it head forward with the correct treatment. And once I got that, like, there's not a day that I don't go by that I don't do some sort of ERP or some sort of practice, just because it's so life-saving, dudes.
what is ICBT?
Yeah. So we've talked about ERP, which is, you trigger yourself on purpose, and then you learn how to non-engage with it. For example, with my mental compulsions of, if you don't make this red light or you don't make this yellow light, then you're going to die in your sleep or something like that. My non-engagement is, okay, same story, different day. I'm just going to keep going, with my life.
Yeah.
ICBT takes more of that investigative reporter aspect to it, right? So, like, let's say I have an apple and you see the apple and you say, "Look at this apple. Isn't it nice and shiny and beautiful on the outside," right? A normal person would be like, "Yeah, dude, that's an apple," right? Well, an OCD person is going to split off from the reality of that's an apple, is going to split off and say, "Well, there's maggots inside that apple.
Mhm.
There's maggots inside that apple, and so you are going to get hurt. You're going to have maggots inside your body." Like, and all of a sudden you have this extremely distressing thought and you're ruminating and you're thinking about that apple. ICBT, the goal of it is to identify not just at the compulsion level where ERP does. ERP says, "Oh, I'm doing a compulsion. Let me not do that," right? It tries to catch it even earlier, which is what I needed so bad, is I needed to figure out when my brain was going from the reality of what's happening, the reality of what my life is, into the falsity, into the false narrative, the false story. Where's that focal point, right? And how can I use reasoning and my intuition to keep myself from going onto that second path and choose that path of reality? And so there's different ways that go about it. I have a notepad on my phone that I just keep running with it. A good example is I was at the bar with a friend. She said that she had some sort of issue with HR, not at the current station that I'm at, not at the current anything, but this is years and years ago. But my brain goes straight into OCD. Well, do they have a file on me? Oh my God, did I kill somebody? Wait, do they think that I'm awful? Wait, am I going to lose my job in my life? And am I going to be homeless under a bridge? And is my husband going to divorce me? And like, I mean, this is in a bar with my
Worry alarm sounds, and then we go, wee, wee, wee.
exactly. But because I had been practicing not only my ERPs, but my ICBTs. So I had been practicing to recognize when I'm going into that false reality, right?
Mhm.
I could say, whoa, 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 back up, Lillian. When did I take that focal point into that other story?
Yeah, you were kind of recognizing the patterns. I wanna go through each of the subtypes that you have. I share some of those. You've talked about death OCD. Tell me a little bit about the existential OCD, because this is one that I recently have realized I suffer from, and
We
only
both realized when you sent it to
Yeah.
me, I was sending it to you, and I was like, wait, here's another one.
I sent it to Alicia and was like, "Dude, look at what this says." It's constant questions of mortality, the purpose of existence. Why are we here? What am I doing? I get a feeling a lot of the banality of life and sort of like, I'm doing this same thing over and over again. And does this have any purpose? And then I'm constantly running that question through my head and debating it. So how does it show up for you? And for someone who might not have heard of this subtype, what exactly is it?
Yeah, I'm so glad that we're talking about these, because the OCD, the existential OCD, is really not never, but very minimally talked about because it is so mental. But for me, obviously the death OCD has those images of death, the games, the, kind of all that super dark stuff. The existential side actually does, it envelops part of my faith OCD. So it's all together, and kind of the faith OCD and the existential OCD live in a little pod together. Right. Well, what's the meaning of my life? And, how do I figure that out? I need to figure that out right now, because OCD doesn't allow for you to have doubt. OCD says you have to have this right now. And if you don't, something's wrong. And that allows you to keep going and keep going. I think for my existential side of things, I can't, a compulsion that I deal with is avoiding topics about that give me dates. Okay. So if somebody says, Jesus Christ died in 33 AD. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to think about 33 AD and how everybody in 33 AD is dead. And now that's more death. Right. It's just, oh my God. Right. Or if, history books, U.S. history was awful for me, because the dates of the 1800s, now there's nobody from the 1800s. And the reason it goes into that existential side of things is you can't stop it. You can't stop time. You're going to think about how you can't stop time.
I hate that I can't stop time.
Ooh,
God, why can't I stop time?
Literally, right?
Sometimes I'll stop and look around and I'm like, all of us right here are all going to be dead, and there's going to be people after us that just live on. We're never even going to matter. None of this matters.
None of this matters. There's no point.
There's no point, you guys.
Why are we doing this?
Don't even get started.
We're going to be dead soon. Hope you're having a good day.
And,
live it up.
The Scorpions, folks with OCD watching this, I just want to tell you right now while you're watching this, use this as an ERP right now, okay? Feel your heart rate going up as you're listening to this. That's okay. Feel the wave. That's fine. Get through this podcast. Listen to this. This is a dark and twisty. There's going to be a lot of things that are triggering you in this. So I just want to put that out there for folks.
Yes, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
It can feel very triggering, and it does make your heart race, but it's not going to make it happen, guys. Talking about it is not going to make it happen.
This is your ERP for today, and I'm proud of you for doing it. So,
Yeah, girl.
Wait, I want to ask you about the faith OCD as part of this, because I was looking at, you're open about your faith. You just took out your cross necklace. And that has to be so hard to tease apart. And I don't want to be insensitive to your religiosity for sure, but there is such a history in multiple organized religions of kind of weaponizing that fear of the population about the afterlife, the purpose of life, their spirit. And how do you balance that and understand and come to like an understanding of what is real for you and what is your OCD and your moral scrupulosity, as opposed to, I truly believe in the existence of Jesus Christ and God and all that? Because it's got to be hard to tease that apart.
Extremely hard. Yeah. Thank you for asking that. It's extremely hard. But I think I have a decent working thing. I think we're all in work, because every once in a while I'll be in church. I'll be like, ooh, I'm starting to go down a path, But my faith is my number one thing. And for me, although OCD tried to take it, right? There's nothing that I love in this lifetime that OCD has not tried to take from me. Every single day, 24/7, I am fighting to keep the things that I love from the destructive nature of OCD. And so faith is my number one thing. Of course, it's going to go after that. And so the difference, I think, for me is when I'm in the spirit, when I know Jesus is with me, it's a sense of peace. It's a sense of not being rushed to fix something right away, to know something right away. The second I start to be like, but I have to know the answer. What do you mean? But I have to know what happens right when we die. But I have to know all of these little things. I have to, the second I start to go into that, oh my gosh, I just had like 4 intrusive thoughts. Sorry. You
Do
know,
you
Yep.
share? Do you want to
yeah,
share?
we can totally share. No, I just had intrusive thoughts of like, you're not gonna know until you get there, and you're gonna for sure feel that, so get ready. Like all that. Oh, and talking about it on this podcast is gonna make it happen.
Yep.
Oh,
That's the one. Yep.
same day, different story. Moving on. So those were some of the ones that I just fought. Like I said, with extreme OCD, like I have, I'm always combating that.
You guys, before I knew I had OCD, I always thought of myself as a truth seeker. I was like, I'm just a truth seeker. I just need to know the truth in everything. But really, I was just looking for certainty
Yeah.
in everything,
Yeah.
which is wild to me. All these realizations that I have, I didn't, I thought I was so alone.
And you know what's so beautiful about faith is that faith itself is the opposite of doubt, which is what OCD goes after.
Mhm.
Like, it's just so I find it beautiful and very, poetic in that way. I think that my faith is to be called to say, no, I'm not going to look at this. If I feel like I'm being pushed in a direction to find something right now, know it for sure 110%, then that is not my faith. Right.
Yeah.
And it took me realizing that Jesus is a place that I can breathe and not know the answers, and that he's big enough to hold all of those issues, to hold all of my doubt, even though my OCD really doesn't like doubt at all. And I'm a worship leader at my church as well. And the one place that I don't have the intrusive thoughts is when I'm in the middle of a worship song. And
Mm.
I feel free. I feel free. But God forbid I sing a karaoke, I'm going to be OCDing all day. But when it's at church for Jesus, it's very different. And so that's when I can parse out the difference between my moral scrupulosity, right? And, oh, am I possessed? And I need to figure out if I'm possessed. How do I test myself if I'm possessed? Oh gosh, all of those stuff. That's a real thing. Nobody talks about it. That's a real OCD part of things. If I'm asking those questions and doing that kind of stuff, that's not my faith. Because my faith
Mhm.
is not one of fear. It's not going to be one of fire and brimstone. It's one of going after Jesus because he is my safe place. He is my savior, if that makes sense.
You also mentioned health OCD,
Yeah.
and I'm curious how that's shown up for you.
I'll give you a really good story on this. And this is actually one of the few times that my OCD is funny, haha. I love to hike. I was hiking in North Carolina once and I had a blister on my foot. And I just, at the end of this hike, it's at this beautiful lake. I wanted to run in the lake and just relax. So I went in the lake and I went, ooh, I can feel that blister on my foot. I should probably get out of the water. So I got out of the water. And then my OCD told me that I had a brain-eating amoeba and I was going to die.
I've had that brain-eating amoeba. I have also had it.
Oh my God, twins. But like, so here's where the health OCD comes in. I tried my hardest to get service in this mountain range, trying to Google, brain-eating amoebas. What's the symptoms? Do I have the symptoms? Here are all my symptoms. Do I have a brain-eating amoeba? How long does it take for a brain-eating amoeba to get to your brain and kill you? Like all of these things, right? Like, I have a certain heart condition that my mother so kindly bestowed upon me in her genetic code. And what do you think my OCD did right to that? I need to check it. There's a reason I don't have my Apple Watch on me because I was checking it every 2 minutes. Just check. Where is it? Well, that's going to bring my heart rate up, which is going to continue my arrhythmias. So then as a part of my ERP, I joined a gym and I started working out and getting comfortable with my heart rate being up. And I may have done that a little bit too hard because now I work at the gym and I'm a fitness instructor as well.
That's amazing.
I love that your ERPs lead to new obsessions.
We started a podcast because of ours.
I love it so much.
Amazing.
I love it so much. We're like, give 100 OCD people like something to fear, and we'll get it done. We'll fix the world. I'll give you an example from last night. I had a migraine that hurt so bad. I was crying in the edit bay, and it felt so bad. And My brain afterwards told me, should I go to the hospital? Do I have a brain aneurysm? Am I, even though I've had these migraines since I was 13, I'm trying to ask things. I'm asking my husband, can I go to bed tonight? Should I close my eyes? And Killian is just so sweet. He's like, I'm not going to respond to that. I can't.
Oh, smart guy.
Mm-hmm. My husband's amazing. He came with me when I was doing my IOP, and he sat down with me and said, how do I respond when she's sitting here asking me a million times if I hate her or if she's going to die tonight when she sleeps? And they were like, it's going to be tough and she's going to hate you, but I can't respond to you, babe. I love you. I can't respond to that.
But in those moments when he says that he's doing what he needs to do.
Oh,
Are you able to reel that in? Because this happened to me last night. I looked at my husband because we've been so busy.
Yeah.
And I said, do you still love me? And he was like, honey, I'm not going to answer that. And I was like, you're going to just make me sit here and wonder? Oh. And then, it rises, I don't know, 90 seconds, come back down, and then come back to reality, and you look over and you're like, okay, I don't need you to answer that. I know that, and it's true. They can't feed that. They can't keep responding with what we should already know.
I've been on an OCD campaign of educating all of my family and friends about what it actually is, right? And so I was at work with my friend who's also one of my photographers, and out of nowhere, I go up to him. I said, "Are you still my friend?" It seems weird, right? But in the back of my brain, I had been ruminating for probably the past hour and a half about everything. And in my brain, he hates me and is never going to want to be my friend. And we're never going to play Dungeons and Dragons again and all this stuff. And he just turns around and he goes, okay, OCD. And then I just
Yes.
laughed. And we just started cackling because he knew. He knew that had been a whole hour and a half of build up to that, just one compulsion that I let slip out.
And I love that he used the term properly in the moment. It was, not like these other people who think having their closet color coordinated is OCD. Can we stop? Can we just make a public service announcement right now on how wrong it is? And here's the thing. People I see on social media get super defensive and like, this is... In their defense, I didn't even know I had OCD until almost 41 years old. So we can't get upset for people not knowing what they don't know. We have to just continue to educate people. It's like we can get angry at people all day long for being ignorant, all the things. I just don't think they know. We've all been shown differently on TV, everywhere. It's like, how are people supposed to know?
Here's a good way.
Therapists don't even know.
Here's a good way to know, right? Okay, your closet has to be color coordinated. What is the terrifying intrusive thought that leads you to do that? If you
don't do that, who's dying?
Yeah.
Because you can't answer that.
Who's going to die? Is your house going to set on fire? Right? All of those things. And if they can't tell you, they're like, oh, I just like it like that. Okay, cool. That's a great personality trait. My friend, that is not OCD. But I'm happy to let you know what OCD is and how it actually impacts folks in their life. I know people that have not left their home because of OCD. And that's why it hurts so bad when someone's like, oh, I'm just so OCD. Things have to be perfect. Like, okay.
Can I educate you right now? Would now be a good time?
Yeah, would that be okay? I mean, it's
sorry, but
it's totally fine. It's just, okay, perfectionism, OCD exists, but what is the horrible, terrifying thing that's going to happen to you if you don't have that perfectionism, right? Otherwise, your whole family's going to leave you if you don't win an award. Hi.
Yeah.
That was me, 2019. But we've got over that. But seriously, so it's just kind of educating in love and in understanding that it's been so misrepresented and so I would just say it's been so misrepresented for so long that it's ingrained in our culture to think of it one way.
Yeah.
When you have folks like all three of us that have subtypes that you're like, what? Wait. That's not OCD. Yeah, that is. And that's why it took me until I was 25, 15 years of misdiagnosis to get the true treatment. I mean, and thank God that I'm still here. Because if I had gone a few more days, I don't know what would have happened. I came not only to the end of my mental self, but I came to the end of my physical self. And there might be a kid or a teenager or even an adult right now that doesn't know why they can't eat or doesn't know what's going on or doesn't know why if they fall asleep, they're going to die. Like, Like,
Which is it's interesting because I think that a lot of people can show up and when it's obvious, when it manifests into a physical illness, right?
Mhm.
And we're still not able to get to the fact that it's OCD. We're still not able to understand why this kid or this person is having an autoimmune disease or they can't sleep at night or all these things are happening for these children that they don't know how to vocalize for themselves. I
Yeah.
feel ridiculous talking right now. What's wrong with me?
No, not at all.
I feel like I can't get a sentence out that makes sense. No, it's so weird. I'm so in my head right now. I hate it.
One of Alicia's OCD
Not putting me
tendencies.
on blast right now, Liam. Enough with putting me on blast. But okay, fine, go. What?
Is that she often thinks she's not bright.
I can't even hear you say it. It's so ingrained in my head that I am a complete idiot that it's gotten to the point where I want to quit this.
And you know what? I was really proud of you a couple of weeks ago. So I edit this just because of my background in TV, Lillian, and I want to talk to you about that. And Alicia will listen to it and she'll go, I want you to cut that out. I sound stupid in that. And then I'm in an interesting position because if I cut it out, then I'm sort of feeding her compulsion. And if I don't, then she, obviously she's going to be upset that that's still in the show. But the other day she texted me, I want you to cut that out. I said, okay, I'll do. And then she goes, you know what? Don't cut it out. Keep it there. She exposed
Yeah,
herself.
I did. I told them to keep it there as hard as it is. It makes me want to cry actually or puke, one of the two. Um I think because school was really, really hard for me. I couldn't focus. ADHD was through the roof. I had so much trauma going on at home. And, I blamed myself for everything. And it always came back to you can't focus at school. You're an idiot. You can't sit for too long. You're stupid. Although I was passing tests and I was in honors and I was doing great, but it was almost like, um, guys, the OCD was kicking. It was hard. It was there, and nobody knew. And I lived in this little like dark hole my whole life of storytelling and not knowing what to believe and making shit up, and then trying to prove myself it's not right. And it was messy. It was dark. It was all the things. And it really truly wasn't until I met my husband who believed in me and saw me for I guess who I am. We're still trying to figure that one out. Where I started to see what he saw, and up until that point, it was a constant like just the negative self talk was so intense, so intense. Yeah. Um, so it still comes up for me when I do things like this, and what's wild is if you go through life thinking that you are one thing, you do start to become that.
yeah.
You will start to become that. And, sorry, no offense to you guys, but I don't watch the news because I'm very easily triggered by traumatic events. And so now I don't know anything, current events. I don't know anything that's going on in the world. So can I have conversations with people about politics? No, I can't because I can't because I fear it. And so much has played into that story that, that of I'm just, I'm just a dumbass. And
Mm, you know what I'm gonna
yeah.
say to that. You know what I'm gonna say to that, but I can't give into the OCD on that one, but you are I'm proud of you for recognizing where
Yeah.
where that story goes into. Think about it. Where's that focal point where you're going into the false reality there?
I'm
You
not
have
sure.
you have no
It gets really murky because I'm not, I went to college a couple years. Again, I was struggling. I couldn't do it and I couldn't understand why. And, I'm very creative and I'm a fast learner and I would go home and like teach myself to do all these things. But when it came down to what I thought society expected from me was to graduate, get the diploma, get the degree, do all this shit that I just couldn't do. I just couldn't sit there.
Mm.
And I needed to learn hands on and I had a different approach to how I learned. It just fed the story. It was like,
Mhm.
well, yeah, you didn't do this. You didn't do any of that. You don't belong here. And my husband went to college and his family, that I thought that's what they expected of me. So meeting him, that led to relationship OCD and, what my worth in this family, and I'm the weird one, and, do I belong here? And I still struggle with that. I still
Yeah.
struggle with like, what do they see in me? And am I the right person? I would always tell him, I'm like, I feel like you should be with somebody different. I'd be like, what do you mean? How can you tell me that? I love you. I want you. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. I think you're wrong. I think you need to go with a church going, like, again, the faith stuff I question it. That's a whole nother topic for another time. But yeah, we don't need to talk about me anymore on this. I want to hear more about you, Lillian. I want to hear as a journalist and how your OCD journey, shaped the way you work now and all
Wait,
that.
wait. You can't just say all that
Yes, I can. It's
and
my
then
podcast. I can do
take a left turn. What the hell was that? What the hell is that? What? No. So I just want to pause for 1 second.
No. No, was that my ADHD?
No,
Just
that
No.
honestly, that was the perfect encapsulation of what is going on in our brains all the time. So thank you for showing the world what it looks like inside here constantly. You are brave for doing that. You are strong for sharing that. Keep doing that. And fun fact, I know that you're telling yourself right now that you're going to ruminate about this for the next 10 hours about how you went on a rant. No, you're not doing that. You're not going to do that. You're going to say same thing, different day, bro. Same story, different day.
Yeah.
Okay, you're telling me the same shit you told me yesterday, OCD, and I'm still here, and I'm still talking with a crazy reporter in Phoenix, Arizona. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you were still doing it.
I love when 3 people who have OCD get together. This is amazing. You
This is
guys.
batshit crazy. I
People who don't have it don't listen. Because the people that do, they're like our people and they're gonna eat this up, but like other people, we might scare them off.
Wait, I just want to ask you one question before because I want to ask Lillian about her TV career, but I just want to ask you one question about this, Alicia. So, has it helped you at all to at least recognize the pattern? So when you just stopped yourself and you said, "Oh, wait, I don't want to talk about this anymore, and I'm feeling stupid right now, and I feel like I can't get my thoughts out, blah, 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 blah." Does it at least guard against that a little bit, that you know that it's a pattern and that it's your OCD talking?
Yes and no. I still feel like I'm chasing something.
Yeah.
To solidify that I am what I think I'm not.
You know, the hardest part about OCD is you're never going to get there.
Yeah, that's a tough one for me. And I think this is why speaking about it is super helpful, right? Just like getting that out there. Hey, whatever. But yeah, I mean, that is it. That's how my brain works, and it's exhausting. And you guys know that it's constant. It feels like it's constantly working to try to cancel out and try to understand. This is the OCD. This like you just want to rest. I just want my brain to rest for a sec. I just you just want to like, fuck, it's fucking exhausting. It's like we had a chat with somebody recently, Lillian, and he said, I wouldn't trade this brain. And Liam was like, well, I would. And I get that, Liam. It's like you would trade this brain, the part of it that is just constantly questioning everything. When I first found out that I had OCD, I was very relieved. I was very excited to build this community and finally feel less alone. And it was an extreme high to finally have answers. And then it's kind of now coming down to the reality of it. It's like, oh, okay. Okay, now I need to really accept this.
And the crazy thing is once you feel like you get to that, oh, I'm finally okay with myself, in walks in a new bombshell into the villa. It's a brand new, it's a brand new obsession. That's why I say you're never going to get there. Because OCD, our brain itself, is going to move the goalpost over and over and over again to keep us hooked. It is the same way that my best friend with ED, it's the same way that, so many of my friends that are in recovery for drug and alcohol, it is the same goalpost that gets moved over and over again. And so, yeah, there is a part of ACT of accepting and committing and saying, okay, this is my brain. How am I going to move forward? How I'm going to live with this?
Yeah, that's why I like that combo of ERP and ACT, because I think the ERP component is really important for dealing with a compulsion or an obsession that is the flavor of the month, and exposing yourself to that. And I really do like that ACT component of accepting that that asshole is in the room with you and he's not going to go anywhere. And you just kind of put him in the corner and go about your business. So that, but it takes a lot of practice, a lot of practice. I want to ask you, Lillian, about the TV part, because you and I share that. I spent 15 years in TV news, and I gave it up partly as a result of OCD. And I was on the morning shift. I don't know if you've had to do that in your TV career, but the sleep deprivation is a thing, and it really exacerbated the problem. So I'm curious how you manage the OCD with the stresses of the job, with having to report pretty frequently on tragedy, because that's a lot of what the local news is. How you manage all of that with your OCD?
Well, I'll start with how I managed it before, because think about it. I was a local news reporter in the Carolinas, at a local TV station, and I felt like I would do something wrong, and all of a sudden I had the compulsion to call my boss, not 10, not 20, but 30, 40, 50 times. I'm not exaggerating, right? If I felt like I did something wrong, it would be, I needed to know that I was okay. I needed to know I wasn't going to lose my job. Or let's say I did a live shot out in the Carolinas where I was working before. Did I just cuss on air? Am I going to lose my job? Oh my God, I need to go back and watch that. I need to go. So then I would go watch that. Well, maybe that wasn't the right hit. Should I watch another hit? Should I make sure that I did it? So I was doing all of these things over and over and over again. And people at my old stations were probably like, she's a little off, you know?
Yeah, she's a little insecure. She just constantly needs this reassurance.
She's a
And
little, yeah. Not knowing, I didn't even know at the time that that is a full-blown compulsion attack, right? Having to feel like, oh my God, is something wrong? What's going on? All of those things. So intrapersonally inside a newsroom, you know this, Liam, newsrooms are very interesting, fun times.
Mhm.
Environments to be in, stressful at sometimes, but intrapersonally, it was really freaking hard. How do I respond? How do I act with a boss? How do I act with an executive producer? How do I act if there's news going around the newsroom? It wasn't computing well for me at all. And that really was the hardest part about the job. Now, granted, I've got a little trauma. So like I'm actually very calm in breaking news situations. I can just detach my brain a little bit when I'm at a double homicide up the street. I can say what's going on. Here's the interviews I have to do. Here's the breaking news that I have to do. And it's
well, because we've already thought of it 1,000 times
Right.
prior to the actual event, guys. We were prepared for this kind of stuff.
So I'm really, really good at breaking news. Like I love breaking news. Because if I'm going to be there on somebody's worst day, I would hope that there's a person with humanity that's there on scene. That's why I do it. I do stories because I care about my community. The biggest issue I have in my career is ROCD, is relationship-based OCD in the newsroom, interacting with people, trying not to obsessively think about that one conversation I had with that one coworker over and over and over again until I think that they hate me and then I text them too much.
There's a guy with a leaf blower directly next to me, so I hope the audio ends up being okay. Does that relationship OCD show up with your husband as well? Because I suffer from relationship OCD. We've talked about it a little bit on the show, and mine manifests most strongly with my wife. I have fears of her leaving me, fears of not being good enough, fears of her being unfaithful. I've really gotten to a much better place with it, but in some of my darkest moments, that was the most intense part of my OCD. So I'm curious if it's shown up with your husband, how it has shown up, and then what you two have done about it.
Yeah, it totally has. I mean, I care so much about my husband. Of course, my OCD is going to want to go after something I care about, right? I asked him 4 times this morning four is another number. Anyway, I asked him many times this morning, if he hates me or if he's mad at me because he had to pick me up because I had a migraine last night at work. And he stopped responding, to which that makes me want to be like, you're not talking to me, when in reality he's doing what he's told to do, which is not respond to the OCD side of me. Communication is really big. He comes from a background where, his family's so normal and I love them so much. And they're so neurotypical. It is cute. They're so normal. They're so normal. But so for him, it was a big learning experience of what does this mean to have a neurodivergent brain? What does that mean to have OCD and how do I respond to her? Yeah. So a lot of it's like, oh, he hates me. He's going to divorce me. I'm going to lose everything. Or some parts of it goes into me. So a lot of people don't think that the ROCD can go into yourself, right? Do I not love my husband enough? Like, oh, do we actually want to have a family? I don't know if I
Is there a drug test we can take to prove that this is what love is? Can we like how many more online tests and quizzes do I need to take to prove that we're compatible?
Oh my God.
I'm taking them all.
And social media is so bad because I'll be scrolling, right? And it'll be like, here's the 5 red flags that your husband doesn't love you anymore. And you're like, oh, you just like get into it, right? Like, And so for me, a lot of it, bless his heart, has been him checking me. Him being like, Lillian, I'm not going to respond to that. Or, hey, Lillian, this is an OCD right now. Or, hey, we can totally have that conversation after you get through whatever's going on in the brain right now. I'm here for you with whatever you need. But let's talk when it's not an OCD.
Well, relationships are hard enough as it is.
Yeah.
Without an OCD component, right? And if you're raised in an environment where you didn't have a positive example of what a healthy relationship looks like, that is another layer of distress. Like, how do I know how this is supposed to go?
Oh my gosh.
I have my brain telling me, questioning everything. I have 2 parents that were completely dysfunctional who said, I rely on him. I relied on picking up things around me that seemed healthy. I took note of how people interacted that looked like it felt good.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay, I need to bring that into my house. This is what this means. Or I would read a lot of books on relationships and what it meant to communicate and what healthy looked like. And I learned a lot from the dysfunction of what I didn't want. Right. And you mentioned a little bit about your childhood and your background. I know it's hard to touch on that, and it's okay if you don't want to, out of respect for our families. But it's interesting to me when it comes out for who and when.
Yeah. I've always had it. So there's a genetic component because there are some members of my extended family or my direct family that should get tested. But we know that there's a genetic component. But I grew up in an extremely difficult home. And like I said, out of respect to the family, I'm not really going to kind of go into too much of that. I mean, broken doors, there's a lot there, right? And so, with that, we all have different things. My sister dissociated so hard she didn't remember high school or middle school. No memories, zilch. I turned inward and I let my obsessive tendencies turn to a full-blown compulsionary disorder. Even though our brain is I'm sure you've seen the CAT scans of OCD brains versus not OCD brains. Our brains are made differently. But our brains are also malleable, and that neural pathway that you create can turn into a water slide rather than just a little tiny, neural pathway. It can turn into that giant thing that you always go down every single time. For me. And so, yes, there was a huge impact of the way that I grew up and the things that happened that impacted the way that I do things. Like, I would roll over every morning and apologize to Killian. Every single morning. I did it this morning and I shouldn't have. I'm so sorry. We've been married for 4.5 years, Lillian. Why are you apologizing to me the first thing you wake up? Well, there's other reasons why I apologize every single time I woke up.
And then you're apologizing for apologizing.
And then
so sorry for saying sorry.
And it really does. And I listened, Liam, to the conversation with your wife the last time. And it takes a really strong person to be married with somebody with OCD and to have so much patience. The amount of patience that you need is a super
confidence and patience.
Superhuman.
We have all married very confident people because we will test them in so many ways, right? And they need to be confident in who they are to handle us second guessing who we are.
Maybe instead of sorry, we should be saying thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Where are you now? Where are you now with treatment? And I know you mentioned you're on SSRIs, and For someone listening who has just recently got diagnosed with OCD, what would your advice be on where they should start and what has helped you the most?
Where am I now? Today, I am practicing my ERP like I do every single day, a different one. So here's my candle right behind me. I'm going to blow it out before I go to work, and I'm not going to take a photo of it before I go. And I'm not going to text or call my husband and ask him to check our indoor camera and ask if the house is on fire, because those are things that I'm dealing with right now. For example, here's the photos of the candles I took yesterday when I went to work. So that's just an everyday ERP. I know, it's funny. Where am I at now? That's where I'm at. Okay. I live with severe to extreme OCD. And so every single day, I do something to exercise the muscle of recovery. I'm 3 years into recovery from the worst of it. And exercising that muscle for a lot of it looks like doing things as silly as lighting a candle and making sure I don't take a photo of it out, that I know that I blew it out and I don't call my husband. Or, another thing, I would spin in circles in a back room at the TV station because I was fearful of passing out or getting dizzy. So my ERP for that week was to make myself intentionally dizzy. Can you imagine reporter in Studio B spinning in circles on the camera and just standing there and saying, same story, different day, bro. I'm not worried at all right now, right? Like that's what I'm doing right now. So I am exercising my ERPs every day. I'm taking notes on everything that I possibly can for my ICBTs. So when I know that I've gone into a false narrative, I go through my checklist. And I am on an SSRI. I am on Lexapro. And it's been incredibly good for me to help not fix the whole thing, because you do need to have correct treatment and training with it, but to help as a tool in order to make it not overwhelming for me.
Did you try others before getting to that one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You got to find the perfect cocktail for your type. It's interesting because I think so many people get discouraged of like starting and quitting and all the. Yeah, I mean, I know I am. Yeah.
Keep going. It's going to take time. It's like, but I'm a perfect example of you'll hit rock bottom, but you will find the light at the other end. I started by saying, hey, let's get dark and twisty, but there's always light in there. There's going to be light after it gets really dark at night. The dawn is coming. And so I'm living in my personal dawn, right? I've been through that darkness. I know what that's like. And so I am actively working on a lifestyle that's sustainable, knowing that I have severe to extreme OCD, and knowing that if I stay vigilant in what I'm doing, that I can have a fulfilling life, and one that is not just trying to survive every 2 minutes, one that's truly thriving. And I was driving back from church the other day and I was just like, I'm just so happy. I haven't been this happy in years. I just sang my heart out at church because remember, I stopped singing all those years ago. Sang my heart out. I started playing my viola again. I volunteer at recovery, anonymous recovery every single Saturday because it's for both drug, alcohol, and severe mental health. So I'm a part of it. I teach at the gym, which is wild. I teach at ASU, which is amazing. And all of these things I would not have been able to do if I had let OCD keep me in my house, if I had let OCD take away the things that I'm passionate about. And so anytime OCD tells me not to do something, I said, bet I'm going to do it on Saturday.
It's so inspiring for people who are stuck feeling like they can't live out their dream and, do those hard things. And thank you for that. Thank you for sharing with us your story. And I know it's incredibly tough and vulnerable. And I appreciate you showing up. It's not easy to talk about it. But I know that people out there appreciate it. So thank you.
And thank you guys for everything you're doing. And I'm an open book. So like DM me on Instagram, find me, email me, call me, text me, beat me if you want to reach me. I'm happy to talk to anybody who is concerned about OCD, who feels like they have it, or just needs to talk.
Thank you for offering to do that. Where can people find you on Instagram? What's your handle?
Yeah, mine is Lil McClatchy. So LILMCCLATCHEY. I got 2 last names because I got my TV name, Lillian Donahue, which is my maiden name. And then I have obviously my married name, which is Lillian McClatchy.
Lillian, thank you so much. This was really, really inspiring and insightful. And I think people are going to get a lot out of it. So thank you for joining us.
I hope so. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the OCD Confessional. We would love if you could leave us a review. It'll help get this podcast in front of more people. We're trying to spread the good word about the OCD Confessional. You can also find us on social media at the OCD Confessional. Share that page as well. And we will see you next week.